Hello, everybody, and welcome to Frankenstein's podcast, where it is all about the monster. We are a creature feature podcast about monsters and why we love them. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Praska, and with me is
your other host, Khalid Hussein.
What's up, Khalid? Happy to be back with you. I'm excited. We got kind of a fun out-of-the-box episode for us. We've been covering movies lately and stuff, but once in a while, we like to bring in an interesting guest and just kind of do an interview, dig into the genre, dig into monsters in a different way. So I wanted to jump right into it, Khalid, but first, I do want to give us do our little patron shout if you're willing.
Yeah, thank you for teeing me up. So we've got our Patreon now that we're posting what we call Frankenbits. We've already got a couple episodes up there already. We have some awesome patrons already. Thank you to those who have donated so far. We really appreciate it. And for those of you who may be hearing about it for the first time, our Patreon will be for a space where sometimes it'll be about monsters, but sometimes it'll just be a chance for us to stretch our conversational muscles, if you will. And we're going to talk about other things. And it's worthwhile, honestly. Like for like $1 a month you can be a patron, and any amount that you can contribute is like super appreciated, speaking for me and Joe. So go ahead and support Frankenstein's podcast. We're out here, we're trying, we're growing. Back to you, Joe.
Yeah, my conversational muscles are flexing hard right now, so I'm ready for it.
Yeah, flexing hard in your new setup, the lab, I see.
Yeah, I'm in the basement now, so yeah.
I love it. It looks like,
thanks.
For viewers at home, like if you've seen The Dark Knight, it looks like they're little, like when the Batcave is like being remodeled, so they have to go like work in like a Chicago parking lot. I don't understand what it was, but it kind of looked like with the cool ceiling part of it. It looks like that.
Yeah, it is. The being remodeled bit is pretty apt. I mean, the basement is kind of a mess, but we're kind of getting it together. So, yeah, it's going to become the podcast spot. So it'll be cool eventually, Khalid.
The stewed. It's cool already. I hope you didn't take any of that as disparaging.
Oh, thanks, pal. All right, well, I'm going to bring in our guest, Khalid. We got with us today is Shane Hawk, who is a history teacher and horror writer based out of San Diego. His short fiction has appeared in numerous anthologies, and his debut short story collection, Anoka, is currently available. And recently, he co-edited the Indigenous dark fiction anthology, Never Whistle at Night. Welcome, Shane.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. How are you?
Good. It's a little tired, but I'm okay. It's been a good week.
Yeah, we're late night podcasters here. We're always tired, so
night owls.
Yeah, I'm a high school history teacher, so once it's around this time, I'm okay because I'm off tomorrow. But normally 7:00, I'm trying to wind down.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm an elementary school teacher. I'm a 4th grade teacher myself.
Oh yeah, okay.
So
that's what my wife teaches too. 4th grade.
Yeah,
nice. Yeah.
Oh, fun. Yeah. So I get it. Teaching's a lot.
It's a grind.
It is. Well, I am super excited to have you on. I'm going to be honest. I've actually wanted to reach out to you for a while now because you've been on my radar. I think maybe it was via Twitter, a couple of years ago when Anoka was first coming out. I'm not sure if it was Twitter or not, but I saw this. Like the cover of it was really appealing to me because I mean, just being like monster fans, I was like, that is super cool art, and I like checked out the book, and I was a big fan. So I'm glad to finally have gotten a chance to get you on the podcast and reach out. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that was back in October 2020. The werewolf cover.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool. And we'll get into the book a little bit, but that story is really cool too. Before we dig into like your work though, I do have some new guest questions that we tend to ask every new person on the podcast. So I'll go ahead with those. I sent those to you, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So since we are a monster podcast, I like to ask, like, what's your favorite like monster or creature, like in any corner of pop culture? It could be like myths or legends, could be movies, TV shows, books, what have you. And if it's not the same, what would you consider to be the scariest?
Okay, so I've been thinking about this for a week, and it's been real tough. Since I'm such a big fan of both science fiction and horror, there's creatures, widespread in both. But my favorites, I would probably have to choose. That's really tough. It's like kind of a tie. It's a tie between werewolves,
okay,
and The Thing.
Good choices. Good choices.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, for you're going to ask the scariest, it's I would probably go with The Thing, because that, I remember when I saw that movie for the first time, it gave me so much anxiety. I think I saw it with my dad when I was, I think, 9 or 10, and it really preys on that fear that, are the people next to me really who they say they are, or are they hiding things, and how it can just morph into anyone, your friend, your closest, relative, and then just devour you next. It just always freaked
Right.
me out.
Great points. Yeah, The Thing is great. We did that a while back on the podcast too. It's a classic. Do you have like a favorite werewolf iteration from like a movie or something?
Ooh, um,
Surprise question.
Surprise.
um, man, I have a favorite transformation, I guess. That'd
Okay.
Ooh.
be in London.
Yes,
Um,
American Werewolf in London. Great choice. I was
yeah,
hoping you'd say that.
It could have been
yeah, that
another
seems
London
amazing.
werewolf.
There's
No,
the song.
that's the only British one. No, that it's funny because that scene inspired the story that you were alluding to earlier, in Anoka.
Oh yeah.
I tried to kind of pull some from that.
Awesome. Yes, that's great. All right. Good answers. Good answers. So, second question. We all kind of, I feel like we're all like geeky about something in our lives. So, what do you consider yourself most geeky about? What's on your geek card? What could you just like nerd out about for like hours?
Um, Quite a bit of things. Definitely movies. I've watched, I don't know, thousands of movies, multiple times too. Um, Man, really just movies. Like getting really into it. Different genres. Writing. I could talk to someone about writing for hours. Books. Um, I don't know. I don't. I think not a specific topic. I guess just in general, movies and books. I can just talk hours about whatever it's going to be.
Well, you're in good company here then.
Yeah,
Really
We
good
too like
company.
movies
Yeah.
and books.
One time I
Yes.
perfect.
told my little sister that I was a word nerd and she just got visibly disgusted. So, yeah.
Word nerd. No, that's a good one. I geek out a bit about etymology and, looking into the history of words and how they've morphed over time. I try to teach my students about that all the time. They're like, "Why do we need to know this?" Well, it's fun. I don't know.
Because it's fun.
Ki-
Yeah,
Kind of the
exactly.
Yeah,
bedrock of civilization, too, just being able to communicate.
yeah, exactly.
All right, Shane, before we get into like questions about your work and stuff, do you want to, I know you mentioned you're a history teacher, right? Do you want to just like maybe give the listeners like a little bit about like your background, like what brought you to writing and maybe what inspires you to be a writer?
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. I can geek out about books and things like that. I only started hardcore reading when I became like 26. Before that, I only read a handful of books throughout childhood. The common ones, Goosebumps, things like that. And then, I think school kind of killed that, I don't know, reading, interest in me, because of all the analysis and just the teachers, the way they kind of treated me and stuff. Um, and then I don't know, 26, I made a lot of life choices, a lot of changes, and I started reading, $50 a year. Then it became 200, then 250, and then I'm always reading something in a different format at all times, whether it's audio, digital, paper, hardback. Um, and so that was like 2016, and I just kept reading. I didn't think I was going to be a writer ever. To be honest, it wasn't like a childhood dream or anything. Um, but I came across a novella, by Stephen Graham Jones, called "Mapping the Interior," and I read that in 2019. So 3 years into my kind of reading, and it really spoke to me. It felt like it was written for me, and it was spooky as hell. And it was so good within such a short amount of pages, because it's a novella. I think it's only like 120 or so pages. And from there, I was like, oh my God, maybe I can try to do this. He's native, I'm native. It feels like these characters are really familiar. What if I tried my hand at this? Um, and I had a plan to release a short story collection, like Anoka, but not yet. And then I entered the teaching credential program, and that kind of took all my time away. And the writer thing became like a back shelf, kind of thing, like back burner. Then COVID happened, and had all that free time. If I wasn't playing Call of Duty, I was doing other things, and I started really brainstorming. Okay, what if this is the year that I can do it? Everyone has their little passion project. Everyone has all this time off. So I was like, okay, I want to put a book out into the world. What's it going to be? Definitely horror. Definitely maybe, speculative fiction. But I really wanted to lean into horror, and I noticed there's not a lot of Indigenous writers in the genre space. It's exploding now, so it's different. It's 4 years later now. But back then, I was like, when you think Indigenous horror, you think of, well, back then mostly two names. It was Stephen Graham Jones and Al Going Back. Now the field is really expanding, and I it's kind of funny. I didn't really know what I was doing. I'll tell the listeners, sorry, that I just jumped into it. I didn't know about ARCs. I didn't know about advanced reading copies. I didn't know about beta readers. I didn't know about drafting, about how much you're supposed to really put into it, and all the time and stress and everything. And I did everything kind of backwards. So I I actually commissioned the art for Anoka, which is really cool. I love it to this day. There's a big werewolf on there. It's actually it was made by just ink and paper, and then he scanned it and made it into a book cover. So it's all hand drawn, and I commissioned that first. It was like July 2020. No stories were written yet, and I had the name, of the collection, Anoka, because I had been doing some research on, okay, what are the spookiest kind of towns or cities around America, and I came across Anoka, um, which is essentially the Halloween capital of the world, as they call it, since the 20s. And so I was like, all right, maybe this, maybe this. And so I literally commissioned that cover, and I put it on foam board and put it on my bedroom wall. And I stared at it every day, and I started to write, started to get inspired by this artwork and this idea that it's in this small town, and it's Indigenous horror. And I just kept going, and it was taking off. It was actually going to be twice as large, the volume, but I actually lost, oh man, like 20,000 words or so, when my MacBook crashed and I
Oh
couldn't
no.
retrieve the files. Yeah, it was pretty annoying. I don't know. Yeah, I took it to a professional. I don't know, and he couldn't do anything. So I was like, oh, okay. And I just didn't jump into the writer thing again. So it was almost a repeat of 2019. I'll just give up on this endeavor. And then I was really depressed for a while. And then I was like, okay, I have this up for pre-order on Kindle, before it's even written. I need to do this. I need to prove to myself I can do something. And so I got over, being really sunken into my bed, and I was like, okay, let's finish this. And so I went into it. I was substitute teaching at the time. So I was in those COVID pods where there's like 11 kids,
Mm.
and they're all on laptops with headphones, and you have to kind of babysit. And I thought it would be more than that, but that's what it was. And so I was just on the keyboard going away. And I remember I finished Transfigured, which is the sixth story at the end, about 20 minutes before it was due to Amazon. And so I didn't have time to really edit anything. I was just kind of like flying by the seat of my pants, literally pantsing it, and turned it in. And I got into a Discord that was all about writing, and they were kind of rallying me on, and so I had like 20 pre-orders, and so I made them happy. I really just thought it was going to be them and maybe a couple family members, but it really exploded. So I did everything ass backwards, but it worked out. Yeah.
Wow. Well, glad it did. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I feel like it took me only like a day or two to really get. I mean, you sounds like you're a quick reader with like 200 some books a year or something, but like for me, like I'm a little bit of a slower reader. I'm like
Mm.
around like I don't know 30 or something, but I this one I breezed through really fast because the stories were
Oh
quick.
yeah.
The pacing was like brisk, but like they're also just like really exciting. A lot's going on. I think I'm trying to think which ones are my favorite. I think Transfigured is easily like a favorite because like the werewolf bit and like just the craziness of like where it goes towards the end. But I also like was it the Doppelganger book? What was
Oh
that one
yeah.
called?
Imitate.
Imitate. That was it, and the kid's name was Tate. I thought that
Yeah.
was fun. I like your story notes how you describe like the
I
connection with
see what you
imitate.
did there.
But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that was fun. But I think like that one was really really gnarly with like some like body horror elements that you sort of pulled from like just
Mm,
like being versed like with this podcast and like different kinds of horror and different kind of monster stuff and like Cronenberg we've been doing recently a little bit of, and so I was just like
mm.
that was calling to mind some of that, so I really enjoyed that. um One of my first questions you kind of already answered was going to ask you the inspiration behind the setting of Anoka, which for me is really exciting. I don't think I mentioned this to you, but like I'm in the Twin Cities. Khalid's from the Twin Cities also. He's in LA now, but
Oh wow.
we're both from Minnesota, so we know Anoka quite well. Like I
I
grew up
got I got
real
cousins in
close to Anoka.
Anoka.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so cool. Um, yeah, I started writing that, and it was kind of funny. It was kind of a secret project. I didn't tell my parents about it really. I just said, "Hey, I'm kind of writing some stuff." And then, once it was already sent off to Amazon. I kind of opened up about it, and my mom and brother and grandma were actually kind of planning a trip to Minnesota because we have family up there, and I had no idea, but my mom was like, "Do you know I was in that Halloween parade like twice?" And it was
Oh,
kind of mind blowing because I didn't even know. She never told me about that. Um, the Rum River that I described in Transfigured, my grandma loved going down that river in a kayak. I never knew any of these details, but somehow I
that's
wrote a
cool.
Wow.
book about Anoka. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But yeah,
Wow. That's a really fun connection that you just like discovered later on. That's awesome.
yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, it's cool. And so like you kind of mentioned in the book a little bit, you touched on briefly, I think like the tribes that are mostly in Minnesota, they got the Ojibwe, Anishinaabe, and Dakota tribe, which
Mhm.
you said you kind of had to learn a little bit about like their culture when you're writing it too.
Yeah, yeah. It's a you have to go walk on eggshells when you're getting into indigenous fiction because there's so many nations, so many
Yeah.
cultures, so many languages, and I'm not sure I would write a story in the future from a different nation's perspective unless I had like a team of consultants and friends I reach out to and talk to and have real discussions with.
Hmm.
Like I said, I didn't know what I was doing, and so I think what I sort of did is frowned upon.
Mm.
Um, but I haven't gotten. Can I curse on here?
Yes,
Yeah.
anytime you want.
I haven't gotten shit from people really, so it's kind of mostly in my head.
Okay.
But I did a lot of internet research, reading from think pieces and articles and stories written by people of those tribes, not just settlers that were writing about them.
Hmm.
I read both sides because I did those lost stories. Some of them were historical horror fiction, like dealing with railroads and
Hmm.
how Anoka looked back then.
Oh yeah.
Um, and yeah, so it was interesting doing that kind of research. And yeah, it's like I'm saying. Um, I say if you want to write about a culture, it's really tough. because I have a lot of people coming to me about different tribes,
Hmm.
and they're kind of like, they enter my DMs or my email and they're like, hey, can you give me permission to use this from a different tribe? That's not Cheyenne Arapaho or
Oh,
Hidatsa or Citizen Potawatomi. And I'm like, I don't know what to say. I can't. I'm not like I'm not like an
I'm not that.
arbiter of anything.
Oh boy.
um,
Yeah, that's
but yeah,
tough.
even Indigenous folks, we got to deal with similar things within our own nations, because we're all different. And so, the whole thing, I was trying to be respectful. I don't think I stepped on anyone's toes. It is horror, so there's bad things that happen to people, within tribes or of descent. But I haven't really gotten. I don't know. I haven't really heard anything negative. So
Yeah, and you in your introduction too, I think you talked about like learning about the cultures up here, and I think that was it at least from a perspective as a reader, it felt very respectful and acknowledging like just like who's on the land up here. Like I know I feel like growing up as a kid in Minnesota, like I would have never known that there was 11 sovereign nations here within our border,
yeah,
like when the state border. And then like now it's something that I like emphasize in my teaching, like with kids. Like I think that's something that everyone should know. But like
yeah,
I know I just think like thinking about that, like I think that it came off respectful and from the take of like us as readers, I'd say.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So that's what I was trying to do.
And yeah, just speaking to the intentionality of it all, within your story notes for Anoka, you talk about how you wanted to talk about themes that affect Native communities. So I guess I would love to hear you speak a little bit to like, infusing things like true crime, I guess, for lack of a better term, that has been
Mm.
inflicted upon the Native community that you're writing about. Would you be able to speak to that?
Yeah, and
I just I mean it's very interesting because like horror is such a great
mhm,
tool for underscoring like the actual horrors of like humanity. So
right.
sorry, I don't mean to be like morose about it, or I don't want like a morbid
No, no,
deep dive.
no, no, no worries. Um, yeah, I mean, there's so many issues that I wish I could tackle more in depth with Anoka. But I didn't think anyone was gonna really read it. So I could have really went more in depth on a lot of things. In say like the second story, Wounded, that's like I think the longest story maybe. Um, about this brother that thinks that he basically killed his sister because he kind of went to go drink and let his vices take over him, and his sister got abducted and murdered. And I don't really, I wasn't hand-fisted about the issue, but really that was speaking to missing and murdered Indigenous people, namely girls and women. um, and that's a big issue that's been kind of haunting us, across nations, for a long time, and it really hasn't let up. Um, and so I was trying to get into that without. Um, it's really tough, like when you're talking about these serious topics and using kind of horror as like this catalyst, this tool to kind of bring out social commentary, but you also don't want to be hand-fisted about it, and you don't want to be careless about it. You kind of want to have to try to find a happy medium, or sad medium.
Sounds
But
like
then
a tight
also,
wire, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then also not trying to kind of play into the stereotype that Indigenous writers or creatives all lean to this kind of idea of trauma porn, that hey, look how bad our lot in life is and let's capitalize on that. So I didn't want
Exploitative.
to go that way either. It's really tough because people have different ways to interpret any art. And so, say a sentence can throw them off and they can really, go after you. Luckily, I haven't heard anything yet. I'm open to criticism. Um, but yeah, I was trying to tackle quite a few issues, but also not try to paint like all of Indian country like that. There's not everyone is an alcoholic. That's a big trope that I constantly see in media. But I do tackle alcoholism in in Wounded and in Orange, um, because that was kind of also me dealing with. Um, this book was kind of like it was kind of like therapy for me. I was getting out all these things that have been like inside me for years. I was depressed for like a decade before this. And I kind of like let it all out on the page. You kind of write what you know. So I lost my stepdad to alcoholism and cancer in 2016. And so that's kind of like that time when I started making like big life changes. And that was a very rocky relationship. And, different people on alcohol react differently, but I was trying to tackle this kind of vice that takes over quite a few people and people that don't even really call themselves alcoholics yet. It's kind of so ingrained in American culture, the top, over culture. Um, so I was trying to deal with how alcoholism can kind of change people and make them make terrible decisions, moralistic questions, and you can't really ignore the fact that alcoholism doesn't plague any reses or city Indians. It kind of plagues a lot of people. You don't have to be indigenous. So I was also trying to just kind of make it not specific, but kind of generalized in a way so that people can actually connect with it. Because that's a big issue that I think a lot of people can connect to. If they have a family member that really suffers or themselves. Yeah. Uh, yeah, that's definitely a tight wire they get to walk.
Thank you for sharing all that. Apologies for your loss. I mean, I know it was in 2016, but
Yeah.
still, that stays with you. So thank you for sharing all that.
Oh, it's okay. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And do you think like you'll carry some of that into your future writing? Like not necessarily about like specific to indigenous peoples, but just kind of like using horror as like a gateway to like talk about these like deeper things that resonate with you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'll bring out all my life into my writing and try to spread awareness about all sorts of things. I think throughout the stories in Anoka, I can't remember because I haven't read the stories in a long time, but quite a few of the characters I think are depressed, and so depression and suicidal ideation are a big kind of overarching theme in that collection. And if you guys picked up Never Whistle at Night, my co-editor and me, we have a what do you call it? Sorry, dedication
Yeah.
at the beginning, and I actually dedicated kind of my half of the book to my auntie. We lost her to suicide last September,
Mm.
and um, so there's stories and there's things that kind of resonate through just all of our families, and it's kind of like this sorrow that you kind of carry with you. And I don't know, I've had this stuff with me for a long time. That's why I kind of self-insert in I think it was Dead America. It's like, is this sadness, is this kind of curse in my blood,
Hmm.
because I contemplate this all the time, in my family. It's like there's bad stuff happening all the time. Is it just kind of, is it hereditary? So I try to bring, whatever I'm dealing with onto the page. And, I'm not some kind of unique person. So I know that it's going to resonate with someone. Um, and I think that's all you got to do is kind of write from your heart and write what you know. And I think horror is a really fun medium to try to tackle really tough issues. Um, and, it's kind of a safe playground like that. Those things aren't really happening. You're just kind of like in the sandbox. You're kind of like, what happens if this happens? So you have that kind of safe distance.
Yeah. Like Khalid said, thank you for sharing. And yeah, likewise, sorry for the losses there. But yeah, that's fascinating insight into the process, especially.
Yeah. Sorry to bring the podcast down.
No, no, that's like
I was
fine.
just
It's
saying.
like genuine, of course.
No, that
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
real. I really enjoyed that answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Of course.
Are there just to bring it up a little bit, talk a little bit more about the
Yeah.
craft side of things? Would
Mhm.
you say there are like any specific mythologies or legends that you like to draw from when you're crafting these horror stories, like in the fantastical side of it all?
Yeah. My story, Never Whistle at Night, is called Behind Colin's Eyes, which the listeners can go read for free on Tor.com. It was one of the kind of like early preview stories. Um, that's literally kind of a story that my dad told me. Not a story, it's a kind of, real life, what happened with him and his dad, or my grandpa Hawk.
Mm.
And I originally had a story about Bigfoot, because my dad encountered one, and it was a pretty harrowing story. And that almost made it to Never Whistle at Night, but my grandma kind of wanted me not to tell that one. And so what kind of ends up on the page is sort of a shapeshifter story,
Mm.
um, about this big elk that my dad was trying to hunt. And they'd shoot it and it would never fall down. They never could kill. They could never kill it. It kept following blood trails. And so I crafted a story from my own family lore, um, for that one. And there's plenty of others that I'm exploring right now. In Arapaho stories, little people, not normal people with short stature, but there's these creatures, little people, that they kind of the stories of them are shared across the plains, across different tribes, but specifically to Arapaho, they're very mischievous. They're very malevolent, and they're about 2 feet tall or more, just 2, 3 feet tall, and they just run around and terrorize people. They have sharp teeth. They're cannibalistic, and um, yeah, I'm gonna be exploring that pretty soon, in the story. I'm writing my. I'm not sure how much I could say. I'm writing a. I'm writing a screenplay right now. Working with a producer that's made two fairly big horror films, and the creature that I'm exploring is from Cheyenne stories.
Mm.
Um, and in English, you say Two Face, and so it's this kind of humanoid creature that kind of, no one really knows how it comes out, like how it kind of gets conjured. But it's about 6, 7, 8 feet tall, humanoid, and it has a normal kind of, not handsome, but normal looking face up front. But on the back of his head is a very ugly, grotesque face, and basically, he tries to make people look at the back of his head. And if you do, depending on the story, there's some that say, it'll just kind of make you frozen. You can't move, kind of like this kind of sleep paralysis, until he goes over there and takes bites out of you and you're dead.
Oh.
Horrifying.
Yeah. Or there's some stories that, like, right when you see the face, you just die. So people are just trying their best not to ever look at him. And it's kind of, it plays on this kind of, this theme of attention seeking behavior, and you can kind of ignore things, and maybe if you ignore it, it'll go away, but maybe not. And yeah, I'm 33, so I have a lot more. I have a lot more to write, and I'll be pulling all sorts of creature features in the future. I have a lot planned. I'm so excited.
Well, we would
That's
love to hear more about that when you're able to tell us about it. Because already, just from that,
yes.
I'm like seated. I will get a ticket.
Super pumped.
Yeah,
Yes.
awesome.
Very excited. Yeah. Anytime you want to come back and talk about more monster stuff, you're welcome.
Heck
Uh,
yeah.
so you brought it up a little bit. I haven't checked out Never Whistle at Night. That
That's okay.
is a new anthology that you co-edited, and you said you have a story in that, correct?
Yeah, yeah,
That's right. But that's also featuring a lot of other like Indigenous horror writers as well.
yeah, yeah.
So I think that's kind of a good segue. I was going to ask, where would you point? Like, I know, so we're definitely saying like your work is really great. The Neville Whistle at Night is something people should check out. Where would you point folks who are looking to get more into Indigenous horror, like from books, maybe movies or shows, even like recommendations that like you've been really drawn to?
Yeah. Well, specifically horror, there's not a whole lot. It's very limited. Um, but the one that everyone kind of goes to is Blood Quantum.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a zombie flick with a very interesting kind of twist socially, with the premises. I think it was exclusively on Shudder for a while. I'm not sure if it's on there anymore, but yeah, I'm really sad. That's bringing the show down again.
Yeah.
The loss of Jeff Barnaby. He created that movie, and he was going to be I think, in my opinion, a really cool visionary for Indigenous horror. But yeah, we lost him, I think, last year.
Mhm.
Um, but for listeners, definitely check out Blood Quantum. And there's actually a story in Never Was Silent Night called Quantum by Nick Medina. And that kind of tackles that issue. If no one knows about that, is, I mean, a lot of natives are questioned by, what percent are you? What's your pie chart? How much are you? Are you half, quarter, 2%, like we're milk or something? But yeah, it's a real big issue that I'm glad people are starting to speak out against, and a lot of tribes are kind of dropping it, but still some really hold on to it. My tribe's included. I won't say, I'm not going to act like they don't, but Cheyenne and Arapaho, they still have blood quantum, so they have the blood amount on your ID. Um, but yeah, that's a very interesting movie to check out. I wish there was going to be more from Jeff, but yeah, Blood Quantum for sure. Um, Another one that's pretty cool is Mohawk. It's from 2018. Kenneteio Horn. If you've ever watched Reservation Dogs, she plays Deer Lady.
Hmm.
Oh
And she was
yeah,
also, I forget her character's name, but she's like a main character
Tandis
on
or
Letterkenny.
Tanis or Tandis.
Yeah, Tanis,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome. So she's in Mohawk, which I really recommend. It's kind of a bloody revenge kind of tale. It's really worth watching. And she actually, I'm not sure how many, but she narrated some stories for Never Will Silent Night. So that's
That's so
pretty cool.
cool. Really?
Oh wow, I
Yeah,
love her.
Oh damn. Yeah. Yeah, she's
yeah,
great.
she's awesome. I get to meet her too. I'm gonna go to a Indigipop X, which is like an Indigenous Comic Con later this year in Oklahoma.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I get to meet her and Sterling Harjo, and yeah, pretty cool.
Awesome.
Let's see. I'm trying to think. One that's more, I would say, sci-fi. I would say sci-fi horror is Slashback. It's a
Mm.
movie. It's an Inuit story. I would say it's a little rougher on the edges, so give them a break.
Hmm.
Um,
That one's been
but
on our
just
radar to do on the podcast too, actually.
yeah,
Yeah, monster
cool.
movies and stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's good. I like it a lot. But that's an Inuit kind of sci-fi horror movie. That's good. I'm trying to think. I mean, go into books or anything else. I mean, books. I think Stephen Graham Jones should be probably your first stop in Indigenous horror.
Hmm.
Um, Mongrels, if you like werewolves, that'll really entice you in a different way. It's kind of the way it's written, the narrative structure, and everything. Mapping the Interior, the one that got me hooked into being a writer. Um, the Only Good Indians, amazing. He won like several awards for that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's just so many though. I'm not trying to like plug my book over and over, but like all the writers within Never Whistle at Night, pretty much um, they all have works coming out or they already have some.
Hmm.
And some of them we kind of spark their career in a way. That's what we're trying to do. Because I'm not sure if you guys know, but the mission with that book was, have roughly half of them be established names. They
Hmm.
already have books out there, they're known. And half of them were from an open call that they didn't really have a name out there. Maybe they were some short stories and stuff, but they had no books out there. And, one of them was even published for the first time and it never was that night, their first story ever.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we're trying to, it's kind of like my calling, I guess. I was like, with Anoka, where is everyone? So I felt this need to kind of get more Indigenous voices into dark fiction, and that's kind of what we did.
That's so
But
cool.
yeah,
So Never Whistle at Night could be kind of a roadmap for folks looking for more like indigenous like horror writers. Like check out the names there and then just go from there.
yeah, pretty much.
I love that.
And yeah, just for another kind of like quick Google for the listeners, Tiffany Morris, she's one of the authors in Never Whistle, and her story is also up for free. I think on Gizmodo, they hosted her story. It's a doll horror
Hmm,
story. It's creepy as hell.
cool.
Yeah.
Classic for a reason. Love a good haunted
Oh
doll.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. She writes so beautifully too. I mean, I read an arc of her new novella, Green Fuse Burning, which is eco horror, and it was amazing. I wrote a blurb for it and everything. Really good stuff.
I love eco horror.
Yeah, it's so good.
That's fun. Kind of a converse question to that. I think one of the things that just as a horror fan I've seen sort of plagued horror in general is just like not great representation of indigenous folks, like the like
Mhm.
Indian burial ground tropes and a lot of haunted house things. I've seen like even up to recently, I think like I was kind of excited for the movie like Antlers, which came out, but then that really centered like white people, right? Like that's
Yeah,
a
I
bummer
have
because it
some
has
thoughts
cool
about that one.
creature design and stuff, but like that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Like, what has there been any like movies that have come out recently or something that you're like, oh, I'm excited for this, but you're like, oh man, they just really missed the mark and there wasn't like an indigenous writer in the room or something?
Ooh. I'll start with Antlers real quick, just to
Yeah.
kind of add some stuff. I think it was Grace Dillon, who is a professor up at Portland State University, who was the kind of consultant for that movie. And for all the internet stuff I've looked up and stuff, and Twitter and all that,
Hmm.
it looked like the director of the studio didn't really take a lot of her advice and stuff.
Ah,
And the director's cut is a lot different if we ever see that. But I guess the studio kind of took out a big old chunk of her advice.
ooh,
Um, so yeah, I do agree with you. That really cool creature design, but then they kind of made an indigenous story about like white tweaker family. I don't know. I still try to like it.
yeah.
Um, let's see. Oh dang, what was I gonna say? Oh, I was late to it, but the sequel to it,
Mm,
Mm.
that one kind of shocked me, where they have the whole like fake indigenous vision quest thing and like the teepee, and they're doing drugs. I
ooh,
assume peyote, and they have like a whole vision thing, and that was shocking. And I think that was 2019.
yeah.
They kind of had a whole kind of slap in the face to indigenous folks, kind of not not like directly making fun, but I think with the lack of tact, lack of I don't know, consultation or something. It was pretty offensive, kind of making light of indigenous religions and practices. I don't know, it was kind of embarrassing. But I did kind of like that movie, aside from that stuff. Um, I'm trying to think. It's kind of funny because the misrepresentation is kind of so ingrained and so like common. It's harder to think of examples of like good things. I don't know. Like I rewatch Simpsons all the time. I'm a big Simpsons fan. I guess that's one thing I could geek out about. But like the first episode of back when they used to call it the Halloween special before it was Treehouse
Mm.
of Horror,
Yeah.
like they literally go down underneath the basement and it's an Indian burial ground. There's a whole joke about it, and they have like gravestones down there. There's like Geronimo, and there's even like they even make the joke of um, Mahatma Gandhi being
Ooh.
down there. And
Oh
I'm
no.
like, bro,
Oh
are
my
you guys
gosh.
serious? But that's 90s humor. We'll let that slide. I'm a big Simpsons fan. But yeah,
I'm
you
laughing
kind
at
of pick
how
it up in
like
everything.
wild that is. Like in my
It is
mind, they're
wild.
like that's yeah. Just I can imagine. I don't even remember that specific gag, but I don't doubt it either.
Yeah. Um, yeah, more recent ones. I can't think off the top of my head, but I'm sure they're there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Most writing rooms can really benefit from at least someone indigenous. That's, if you're entering any kind of topic like that, that kind of helps.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think we got one more question for you, and then we'll kind of move on to like our ending segment of the pod, just to respect for your time and all. But
Okay.
Khalid, you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So you gave us a good rundown of like cool indigenous based horror within books and movies and all that. So as like a writer who's like kind of combing the legends of indigenous horror, are there any like deep cuts that us fans who maybe are like familiar with like the Wendigo, or sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, or the Skinwalker, like are there any like more niche ones that you could tell us about that you might geek out about a bit?
Trying to think. Most of them are kind of iterations of those two, to be honest. Um, Not all, but a good majority. Trying to think of things from my own tribes, like Arapaho. I forget the name of it, but there's a really creepy giant water serpent that's kind of reminiscent of Lovecraftian horror.
Ooh.
That lived in like the Great Lakes. That I can't remember the name, but it would threaten kind of anyone disrespecting the environment, around the lakes. If you go over there, you're gonna get handled.
Wow. Enough
um,
said.
yeah. Man, I can't think of the top of my head. I guess just a deep cut that not a lot of people know about was the one I shared earlier with Two
Yeah, the
Face.
Two-Face sounds really
Yeah, that
cool.
was a really cool one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that
I
one.
like
Yeah.
how you made this Great Lakes creature sound like a Swayze and Roadhouse. You're gonna get handled.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't
He's
try
got to mess
nothing
with
around him.
Swayze.
You'll get handled. I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Yes. Yeah, I want to hear a story about that one. That sounds really cool.
Yeah. I'll try to write it.
If you want
Yes.
to just do like Roadhouse, but with the creature as the Swayze
There you go.
character, you have my full permission to run with that.
I'll just rewrite Roadhouse.
It's on air. Yeah,
Yeah,
you got permission.
you have
Sounds good.
permission to steal the plot of Roadhouse.
Yes.
Perfect. That makes my job easy.
I love it. All right. Cool. Great suggestions. Excited to look more into some of those creatures that we mentioned, especially the Two-Face. We have just to wrap up our podcast, our final segment of the show that we usually do before closing out is a segment we call What the Fandom, where we just kind of share something that we're just like into at the moment. Doesn't have to be related to anything we talked about, just something we're like kind of digging, we might think our listeners might enjoy. And I think I did share this with you, right, Shane?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I always forget this one when I'm starting to guess, so I just want to make sure. But I'll still let you go last, if you need to think about it. But we'll let
No
Khalid.
worries.
Why don't you start us off, Khalid? What the fandom with you this week?
I am frantically looking because I didn't actually
You
have
don't
my
have
what the
one.
fandom. I don't have what the fandom this
Uh-oh.
week. I've been busy working and like making stuff. So my what the
I
fandom
love that.
is, yeah, my what the fandom is me this week. I'm a fan of just 34 years strong. I'm still making stuff and stuff that I get excited about and I share with all my friends. And yeah, I don't want to jump the gun or anything, but like in the next month or so, I should have some new music coming out. And that has been taking up a lot of
Ooh.
my time lately. So my what the fandom is Nappy Gilmore, the rapper.
Yes,
Happy Gilmore. Okay.
I'm really excited for this, Khalid. For listeners, Khalid's been sending me some of the tracks like as he's like working through them, and it's been just a blast to hear them. So I would second that. Whenever that comes out, we're going to be very excited.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. I didn't mean for this to be like a back patting thing, but Shane, you really inspired me with you talking about your journey. It's super cool to see how far you've come in such a short amount of time. And yeah, like we're about the
Thank
same
you.
age. So I was born in Ethiopia and everything. So like I have my own like relationship with like writing and narrative in terms of like what it means for like culture and identity. And so I definitely a
Nice.
lot of what you were talking about resonated with me. So yeah, I'm a hype up my work too.
Yeah. Keep on hustling, man. Don't stop.
You too. Joe,
Thanks.
what the fandom with you?
Oh, thanks for asking, Khalid. Let's see. I kind of I feel you with the busyness though. I I have a more regular one. One of the things I started recently, just because I have been like kind of busy, is I've gotten back a little bit into audiobooks, just to put that in while I'm doing chores or like driving somewhere or doing something with the kids. But I just started like I picked out kind of just like a obscure like fantasy book that I just thought that I thought looked interesting. It's called Child of the Daystar by Bryce O'Connor, and it's about like kind of like a lizard born creature who's adopted by like a group of like nomads and kind of learns their culture and like grows up, and he's kind of like feared by a lot of people in like human communities and stuff. So it's this kind of like
Mm.
interesting like child of two cultures story. I was initially drawn to it because I like playing Dungeons and Dragons. My character I played for a long time was like a dragonborn character. I was like, what are the stories out there with like dragonborn characters? So I was kind of like drawn to it that way, and I thought like it seemed kind of pulpy and fun and like a little bit lighter. So which kind of felt like what I needed right now. I thought that would be fun. So I'm about halfway through it. The audio narrator is really solid. I, I'm not meaning this as an insult in any way, but he reminds me of Kurtwood Smith a lot, who Red Foreman, for those of you. He sounds just
Yeah.
like him, and I can't get past that, but it's like it's kind of fun for me at this point. But yeah, I'm really enjoying that book. And I guess just going in the theme of like self promo, I also have been doing a little bit getting back in the writing. I do writing for Twin Cities Geek. I have an article I'm currently working on about like
Mm.
the science of misinformation that I'm really really excited about. That's probably not quite ready to come out anytime soon, but it'll be. I have a couple interviews with some fascinating like researchers on the topic that I'm very excited to get that out there. But maybe I'll
Nice.
link that in the future. So that's one thing I'm doing. But anyway,
Nice.
how about you, Shane? What the fandom with you?
You're gonna have to send me that article. Sounds cool.
Will do.
I've been hype about it since he
I'm a
told
big
me.
fan. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of metal, punk, hardcore, just kind of like since high school. Um, so I love a good vocalist with some grit and can really belt it out. A band that I recently discovered is called Holding Absence,
Hmm.
and the album is called The Greatest Mistake of My Life. And this dude can sing. I mean, it's not hardcore. I'm not saying it's going to be metal. It's more like, um, man, even like maybe post hardcore, but with such good vocals. Like he really belts it out. Like if you saw him live, he'd probably be like tired after 2 songs, maybe. um, but I've been listening on repeat for maybe a month and a half.
Wow.
I can't stop listening to it. It's really good.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the recommendation.
Yeah.
Before we close out, Shane, is there like any like social medias you want to plug or where people could find you?
Yeah. I'm on all of them. I mean, shoot, there's so many now.
That's fine.
Blue Sky, Threads, X. I've always loved Twitter the most, but it's kind of dying now, so I don't
Yeah.
know what I'm going to do. The best I think is shanehawk.com, and I link all of them on there. But probably if you just Google me, there's like it's also a quick little rundown, like a list on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shane Hawk. There's not that many Shane Hawks in the world. I'm the guy with the glasses. But yeah,
Cool. I'll link your website in our show notes too, for sure.
cool. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you again so much for joining us. This was a really interesting conversation, super enlightening. I'm really glad to finally have gotten the chance to like reach out and chat with you after a little while here. Love the book. Looking forward to checking out Never Whistle at Night and whatever else you come up with.
All right. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I didn't know that you were looking for me for so long. I've been here.
every day he'd just be shouting down the street, Shane.
I search.
Where's Shane?
Yeah, the guy with the glasses. Shane, yeah, everything Joe said, double for me, except for searching for you. That was exclusively a Joe endeavor.
Just a me thing.
But it was such a pleasure to have you on. This is such a great discussion. I'm excited to dive into your work as well. And yeah, thank you
Appreciate it.
everyone at home for listening to us. And can't wait to get back into talking about creature features on the next episode. But until then, Creep it easy.